911, what's your emergency? 911, what's your emergency?
Be advised, car 4 has control of the pursuit. Proceed with caution.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Behind the Crime Door. I am Kristen. It's good to see all of you this evening. Hey, Deborah Edwards. Hey, Maria. How are you, my dear? Thank you so much for being here. Hey, John. Good to see you, my dear. Hi, Tech Death. How are you? Hey, Lynn. Always good to see you. Hi, Sierra, Louisa. Hi, Dee, Ashley. Hey, Joe. Hey, Olivia, too. You are so kind. Thank you. How is everybody on this Thursday evening? Hey, Melissa. Hey, Mrs. Thang. How are you? So good to see you. I have an announcement to all my moderators tonight. Jennifer is working on Nightbot tonight, so please do not use him at all for prompting. Tonight, you guys will just do without prompts tonight, and just do the best that we can. Okay? She's going to set up Nightbot to where he will automatically do the prompts himself, and you guys won't have to drop them unless you want to. And I'm really pleased that can be done, because that means that you guys will have to do less of that. And also, you'll be able to be more active in the chat as well. Hey, Sierra, how are you? Hey, Danger Dave, good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Oh, Dee, that's terrible. I'm so sorry to hear that you have COVID again. It's not anything to mess around with. It's not fun for sure. I hope you feel better soon. Oh, thanks, Danger Dave. I am a plant person. My office, I have a big picture window on this side of my office, and I have tons of plants hanging in front of it. So, yeah, I'm a plant nut for sure. Hey, Metal Mama, how are you? So good to see you. Highlighting the way home for the vanished. Good to see you and have you with us tonight. Hey, Sees Through. So good to have you guys. So tonight we're going to talk about, we have Delphi as the topic. We're going to talk about the witnesses and what we do not know. Oh, that's funny, Dave. So I think it's going to be a really good show. I hope you guys get a couple good takeaways from it. I got some interesting information about witnesses and eyewitnesses in general. And oh, good, Dee. Keep on top of it because it's so important. Your oxygen can drop so fast with that doggone virus. I'm telling you. Oh, what was I thinking? I was going to tell you guys something else and I can't remember. I'll save it, I think, for the end. I have an upcoming live on Saturday. Maria, True Crime Maria, and my daughter will be joining me, and we are going to be covering the Casey Anthony case. So I will be putting out a thumbnail for that very shortly. I will also put a disclaimer in my description for people that may be triggered by the case, because I know a lot of people will be or won't, are, and I want to give them a heads up. But I also want people to understand that to be completely fair and to have all the facts when you're covering something, you have to cover both sides of it to be fair and factual. And that is what I intend on doing. So I'm looking forward to that. Oh, Dee, that's good that you're not smoking. Hard, but it's good. I'm glad to hear that you have been able to not have one. It's hard to get over any kind of lung disease or issue if you continue to smoke. Hey, Pigeon, how are you? Good to see you. So that's what's coming up on Saturday. And I'm still working on a couple of other cases that I'm going to be bringing to you guys. But I did want you guys to know that they did identify the boy in the box from 1957 in Philadelphia. His name is Joseph Augustus Zarelli. And I am going to be covering his case. So I did want to give you a heads up on that. I did post his article on my community page today. I also posted, if you guys have not seen the video that my good friend Steve from True Crime Web dropped on the CSI P226 Sig Sauer 40 caliber controlled testing that he did, please make sure you guys watch that. I did post that video on my community page. And hold on a second. I'm going to try and bring it up real quick so that I can drop it for you in my chat. So this is this is what you would need to click on if you want to see that. I highly suggest everyone watch it because it makes you understand as he is pulling back the slide on the gun, you can see how the ejection works for the casings of the bullet. It's very, very informative. On Donald Dean Studi case, he is the man in Iowa whose daughter claims that her dad killed over 70 women and dumped their bodies in a well on a mushroom trail near their house, and that her and her siblings helped him do this, or were made to help him do this. Investigators do believe her, and they have started digging under the well. So we are going to be following that. I'm going to be covering that case. So I definitely wanted you guys to be aware of those two things. And what else was I going to tell you about? I think that's all the stuff. Thank you so much, Jennifer. I certainly appreciate it. So, let's get into it and start talking about the fact that we have these witnesses that have come out into the PCA document, and we know why they were there, basically, when they were there, and what they saw. And I've talked a lot on my channel about eyewitness accounts and how sometimes they're unreliable, because it's been proven through science and many studies that we all see things differently. And I think that we all understand that, or should understand that. There's a reason, I think, for it, but we all have different biases. Some are unrecognized that we just have, that are how we were brought up, and we're just biased. So those have a lot to do with not only how we see things, but how we interpret what we see as well. And based on age of who the witness is, and based on what they're actually seeing. Younger people tend to interpret things differently than older people. You can see a whole situation, and a young person may think one thing about that situation that's unfolding, and an older person may think something completely different. So those are the kinds of things that can happen with eyewitness accounts. But we've addressed it, and there are some people who are actually trained and are experts in witness testimony. And I can guarantee you that the prosecution is going to have some of these experts help them with these witnesses and getting them prepared for trial. They will be going over their testimonies, because these witnesses are going to be probably seriously questioned deeply by the defense. And so the prosecution wants them to be good, solid witnesses. They don't want them to freak out on the stand, and they want them to be credible and appear credible. And one of the things that I've noticed after doing some of my research about these experts, hey, Verbal Judo, welcome. Everybody, welcome my new moderator, Verbal Judo. So glad to have them in the house and part of the Doors team. Thank you so much for being here. And will the mods please help Verbal Judo out with any questions? Sorry, guys. So one of the things that I've learned after reading and looking at some of these documentaries that some of these experts have done on witness testimony, one of the things that I've learned is that a lot of us are not aware of some of these things. And I don't think it's very common that people know. So I thought what we could do tonight, and one of the things that I wanted to do tonight was talk about the PCA document and some of the eyewitness statements from it. Now, we know that there has been witnesses in the PCA document that actually stated that they saw a man all dressed in black boots, black jeans, a black jacket. And we also know that 3 of the juveniles saw a man dressed in blue jeans, a light colored blue jacket, and said that his jeans were baggy and that he had a hat on and something covering his face, lower face. So when you look at that, there's been a lot of speculation that these 2 groups of individuals have seen 2 separate people. I, for one, believe that they saw the same person. I think they saw the same man, they just saw him differently. And I get that there's going to be a lot of pushback to that because I understand why. But I just want everybody to try to listen to what I've learned from the experts. So when we have witnesses to a crime, law enforcement has been trained heavily in how to handle witnesses at a crime scene or around a crime scene. And basically, the first thing they do is that they remove the witnesses from groups and they single them out. They put them individually somewhere to where they are not speaking to one another about what it is they just saw or what it was they just witnessed. Now, why do they do that? Well, they do that because our memories as human beings are notoriously unreliable, and especially during times of stress. Now, it may not be stressful because when they're being interviewed in this case, and especially in this case, they only knew the girls were missing. We don't know for sure when these initial statements were taken by these individuals, these witnesses, and that will come out at trial as to when they were actually talked to by law enforcement. So if it was after the girls were found and they knew that the girls had been murdered, it could put these witnesses under duress. And that can cause all kinds of issues with bringing forth or recalling memories. And they don't want witnesses talking amongst themselves while they are being interviewed or filling out information. They may have given them a sheet of paper to fill out with their personal information and what they saw. And if they gave them one of those documents, whatever, to hand out, to fill out, they don't want them to be able to ask each other, like, I don't remember, Sally, was his hair blonde or was his hair gray? I mean, they don't want that. They want them to recall what they saw and not what someone else saw. And that would make perfect sense to me anyway. And this is not what the people investigating crimes want to see from witnesses. And so they keep them apart. But you know what they say is if the witness accounts are not identical, they're more believable. Because you don't expect them to be identical, since we all see things differently. They actually hope that they're not identical. Because when you have a bunch of witnesses and they all are saying the very exact same thing, then that leads you to suspicion. So in my mind, when I see these accounts in the PCA about a man in black and about a subject described as the photo of the man on the bridge, on Bridge Guy, I believe that they are talking about both. They're talking about the same. I mean, I believe they're talking about the same person. They did not see two separate individuals. And by all means, law enforcement is so aware of this, and they are trained to do these things. And the lawyers are aware of it as well. The defense team will be aware of this, and they'll have their own experts work with their witnesses and work with them to help them depose or to cross-examine these witnesses. And they're going to want, one of the things the prosecution is going to want to do is to educate the jury. Because as I said in the beginning, most of us aren't aware of this. And most of us are not, don't have an idea of how any of this works when it comes to the memories that we have and how we retain information. When witnesses all say the same thing, it leads people to question the validity of what they're saying. And that's not something that in a criminal trial or any trial you want to see, the witnesses all saying the same thing. So there's been many studies on this and many different ways of it being studied. One of them that I always like to use, and it's not even really a study, it's just something that a lot of us can identify with because we've done it, is, and I say it every time we talk about eyewitnesses, but imagine yourself at a birthday party, a baby shower, a wedding shower, and where they play games and they have somebody stand in the middle of the room and they twirl them around and they have them in there, for a certain amount of time, not very long. And then they make that person leave, and then they pass out a sheet of paper with a whole bunch of questions on it about that person and about how that person looked. And you have to, from memory, remember all of those things. And it can sometimes be very difficult to come up with all of those answers. And our mind can play tricks on us. Lighting has a lot to do with it. The sunlight. I've heard people talking about not only the color of the car that was parked at the CPS building, whether or not it was purple, whether or not it was black. And I'm telling you that there's times when black and purple can look the same color, like the same colors in the sunlight. So that's something to remember as well. is how was the lighting that day? You know, we have people in the PCA talking about, somebody says, Rick Allen owns a Carhartt jacket. And he told investigators he was wearing a Carhartt jacket, blue or black with blue jeans. And he had a hood of some kind underneath of it, probably. But, you know, does it matter? Well, it's going to matter to a point. We don't really know exactly how Rick Allen described himself that day. But the details of how he did that and when he did that is going to be important. Was it after the photo of him on the bridge, supposedly him on the bridge? Did it come after that? Is that when he described what he was wearing to the conservation officer? But, you know, he also stated that he parked his car on the side of an old building, and he told investigators that it was the Farm Bureau building, which that building has never been a Farm Bureau building. And it was the old CPS building. Did he do that? Did he say Farm Bureau building on purpose to mislead the detectives that may be looking over his information that he was giving? Have we thought about that? We have people describing the jacket differently. We have people saying that the jacket was dark blue, heavier. We have people saying it was a windbreaker. There's a definite difference between the look of a windbreaker and a Carhartt jacket. I doubt very seriously it was a windbreaker, but it might have appeared that way to somebody who was looking at it quickly or trying to remember it in a hurry from memory. When you are looking at someone and you're not expecting to have to describe them 24, 48, or whatever it was hours later. Stop and think about it. You were out grocery shopping today, and while you were there was a scuffle in the produce department, and some guy hit somebody else, and you witnessed it, and you saw it, and you went on about your shopping, and the police come, and they make the arrest for the assault, and they ask over the PA, anybody who witnessed the assault in the produce department, please come forward. And you guys go forward because they've asked you to. And they take all of the people and they put them whatever outside, and they separate you all. And it takes them a while to get to each single one of you. And you're standing there and you're waiting because you really want to get home to your family with your groceries. And it might be an hour or more or longer before they get to you. And then they start asking you questions about the person who did the hitting. Do you remember what this guy looked like? Are you going to remember? I guarantee you're not going to remember 100%. You're just not. And it would be even worse if it was a situation where you were in the store and you happen to be standing in front of a guy that's behind you that robs the cashier as soon as you bag up your groceries and go to walk out. You may have been standing in front of that guy for a while in line, And certainly you would have turned around, as we all do, and when we're in line, and you would have seen that person. Are you going to remember them though? Your mind is not on that. That's not what your mind is doing. Is thinking, "Oh, I need to remember everything about this guy because I may have to describe him later." Yeah, Maria, you're right. If the paint has those sparkly flakes in it, then it can especially appear different colors. And a lot of the cars these days do have those sparkly flakes in them. Exactly, John. You didn't know it was going to be important. You didn't know that you were going to need to recall that information later. And that's where it's at. But again, a lot of the information you will recall will be correct. And a lot of it you won't be able to. And to me, when you talk about his second interview, when Rick Allen actually comes back to the police and is talking about it, to me, he's trying to obscure his involvement by not only confusing his color of the jacket that he wore, but telling that detective that he parked on the side of an old building instead of saying at the old Farm Bureau building, like he told the conservation officer. And we know that he went to the trail and walked that trail often. His wife said he did. And he said he did. So she basically corroborated that. And my feeling is if he walked that trail as often as he said he did, he knew that was the CPS building. He knew it was not some Farm Bureau building. And some people have trouble telling the color of things. It's just a fact. And the fact that he could remember what he was wearing on that day, because it would have just been any other day that he would have gone out to the bridge, right? Like, any other day that he would have been out there walking on the trails. Wouldn't you find it odd that he would remember what he was wearing? Why did he remember that? Do you remember what you wore last week on Thursday, or last week on a week ago Monday, or whatever? Do you remember what you wore? Maybe he remembered what he wore because he saw himself plastered all over the news. Yeah, Maria said the old farm building is also the opposite direction as the trails from his house, too. It wouldn't even make sense for him to park there. You would think that he would park somewhere else, for sure. Like I said, if he saw himself on the trail, basically up on that bridge when that was plastered all over the news, he knew he had to get out in front of it somehow. And that's just, I don't know. The other thing about the eyes, I've heard a lot of people talking about, well, why did they get the eye color wrong? Because they always said his eyes weren't blue. And it looks like Richard Allen's eyes are blue. So why was that? Where did that come from, that his eyes was not blue? Who's the witness that said that? That's going to be very interesting to find out in court. Who was the description? Where did that come from that was originally on the FBI's wanted poster? And how close do you have to be to someone to tell their eye color? And I have blue eyes, and there's all different shades of blue when it comes to blue eyes. And depending on how the light hits my eyes, sometimes my eyes are darker, a really darker blue than they truly are. So I think that that's important to recognize too. Now, if it was a bright sunny day, so, like I said, there are many shades of blue eyes. My father had blue eyes, and his blue eyes were very light. They were super light blue. Mine are much darker blue than his. So some people, and a lot of these are kids. That's the other thing that we have to keep. We have juveniles here that are testifying. And, you have to ask yourself, how good are kids at detail? Because that's one of the things that's going to be difficult here for the prosecution, because the defense is going to come at them and say that these kids don't remember well. And that's why I think that that's going to be very good, John Doe. That is absolutely true, that stress can make your pupils dilate. And so, that could be part of it as well. Yeah, I'm not sure why that statement was made. It looks like a lot of people saw Bridge Guy that day. I think what he may have meant was that nobody witnessed Bridge Guy after 2:13 p.m. Nobody saw Bridge Guy with the girls. That's what I think he may have been alluding to. Just an opinion, don't know. You've all heard the people say, look at that guy, he's got evil in his eyes, right? And it's kind of like their eyes can just kind of become really dark, almost black. And they can just be changed. I've heard victims who have survived attacks talk about their offender in that manner. His eyes, he just became enraged and his eyes changed and they were just this black, and that rings true to what John Doe just said. Stress makes your eyes dilate. So that would explain why that would appear that way, or why they would seem that way. So but yeah, I do believe that these witnesses are going to be vetted, and there is going to be a lot of experts talking to them about their testimony and how to make their testimony, and how they can give their testimony by making it be more credible. In other words, not give them testimony. They're not going to give them words to say or whatever, but they're going to talk to them about how their demeanor is, and all of that when they testify. And that's just something that happens in trials. And a lot of times they'll hold a mock trial to give these witnesses an idea of how it's going to feel up there on the witness stand. And mock trials can be very effective in this type of a case. It's going to be huge, and it's going to be long lasting. I don't look for this trial to be over in a week at all. But I will say this, that one of the things that I saw on a YouTube channel over the weekend that I was watching, I wish I could remember which guy this was, but he drove to Delphi over the weekend and did like an 8-minute video of walking from the Freedom Bridge to the Monon High Bridge. And his whole purpose is he wanted to see all the things that they're doing to the bridge, because he heard about it and he was like, I don't understand it. Why are they doing it in the middle of winter? What is going on? Why would they choose this time of year to refab the bridge? I wondered that as soon as I heard it. And I couldn't figure it out. And he figured it out for me. And I think he's right. I think they started working on the bridge and taking up the railroad ties and laying down the smooth surface, because I believe that they are going to bring the jury there to that location. And I would not be surprised at all if they bring the jury there and do a field trip for them to be there at the bridge so that they can visually see everything as it is and as it possibly was that day, because it's going to be much more impactful. Everyone who's ever been to the bridge will tell you. It's kind of like seeing anything, you guys. For all of us who've had the pleasure of seeing the Grand Canyon, it doesn't do it justice in the photographs. When you see it in person, it is breathtaking. It is unbelievable. And everybody who's been to the Monon High Bridge says the same thing. Boy, I thought about this place, but I sure didn't think about this place in the right way. Because now that I'm here, it's unbelievably beautiful, scary, remote, quiet, isolated, and frightening. And those are the kinds of things that people will say. So I thought that was just an incredible answer, because I really hadn't thought about it, but it makes sense to me that they're redoing this bridge right now and trying to get at least the flat surface laid down so that these jurors can come out here and see this bridge and see where the girls were, because it's going to be far more impactful for them to do that than to just have it described and shown in pictures. So, I don't know. Like I said, we're all human beings. We all have different ways to process and take in information, and witnesses are no different. I will tell you that my good friend, the judge, tells me that he was always nervous about eyewitnesses, but that they can be more reliable than you think. It's all in how their information was taken and where they were and how long ago it was that they're trying to recall. So the fact that they have these witnesses from the early days, I think, is incredible. It's not like we have witnesses that they just found that they are trying to have remember from 6 years, what happened 6 years ago. These people were all from the early days, within days of the crime, which is going to also make their account and their recollection much more factual, believable, however you want to say it. So I was going to say, the other thing too is our brains are wired to protect us. I'm going to be speaking a lot about this on Saturday on my show about the Casey Anthony case. And during times of extreme emotional stress, our brains take over and they basically protect us. And we get a flight or fight response or freeze. We do one of the three things, either fight, flight, or freeze during times of stress, depending on what that stress or trauma is that we are being subjected to. And I always go back to the most horrific trauma of my life when I'm thinking about my own and my own response. And that was the weekend that my son passed away at home. He was 4 and we lost him to cancer. And my family was had all converged in our home in Colorado. And I mean, all of our family was there. Both sets of grandparents, all of my husband's side of the family, my side of the family, my immediate family, his immediate family, and spouses. Everyone was there in our home. And that week, it was over a weekend that he got really bad, and we were waiting for his parents to arrive from Illinois. They drove. They chose to drive from here out there because they thought that it would be better if we ended up having another car. Anyway, it was one of those things where it was a time thing. We were just waiting for things to happen. We knew what was happening. And it was just a matter of waiting and watching. And when it happened and he passed away, I remember vividly the first couple of hours after. I remember vividly every single thing that happened. But the next day is a complete and utter blur to me. I can't remember what happened that very next day for the life of me. And I'm not sure why. I've had people tell me what happened, so I do know, but I didn't remember any of it. And the next day, I started to remember some of what did happen on that day. And I remember why I think it was that I forgot. And it was because he was the headline on the Coloradoan newspaper. Big, huge letters. And his name, which was Adam, loses battle to cancer. And that was the headline. And it broke my heart, and I was so angry, and I was so mad because I didn't feel like he lost anything. I'm a Christian woman, and I firmly believe that he went to heaven, and I didn't feel he lost. I lost. We all lost, but Adam didn't lose. And so that trauma that I went through that weekend, and basically that whole week after, with his burial, having to go to the funeral home and pick out his casket, and all of it, everything. That was so traumatic for me. I don't remember much of it. And again, I think that goes back to how our brains help us during times of stress. And later, years later, I would start to remember things. As I was going through therapy and talking to my therapist and all of that about all of this, things started happening where I was able to start to recall things. Sometimes it takes a long time for repressed memories to come back. Our brains block things out during these horrible times in our lives to protect us. So that's been proven as well. And therapists can talk about that. They're out there. Thank you guys very, very much for that. But it's something that that I actually experienced. So I know how your brain does that. And it's very crazy, because you really don't think that you would not be able to remember something that was so dramatic, that dramatically changed your life, But again, it's just that way to protect yourself. One of the other things that I found on Reddit that I wanted to go over with you guys was I thought that this was very interesting. So this was brought out of an article written by Katie Cox from WRTV6, February the 20th in 2019, was the article. And this is what the quote is from it. In the 2 years following the girls' murders, detectives have received and combed through more than 38,000 tips. RTV6 has also learned that every tip is entered into an FBI data system that compares with them tips and information from criminal cases across the country. Now, the poster, who was Azalade 337, states, what if the possible tip that was entered into, was it possible that the tip that was entered into the FBI database with the actionable notes from the conservation officer, which involved identifying the 3 juveniles seen walking, task force then evaluates the tips based on this FBI database. Only when the physical copy is gone back and held in hand is it noted that he was there at the time of the murders. And so the question was, what does an FBI database tip form or entry form look like? Could this be why the comments about going back through every piece of evidence needing extra space and staff was told to us by Doug Carter back in February of 2022? And this poster just said that they found the article because they were looking for a long ago quote about who was doing the collection of tips. And I know that there was tip lines set up in the command center in Delphi for a long time. And they had people sitting at folding chairs and folding tables, answering phone lines. And that was happening. I know that was happening there. We saw photographs of it. But there is I'm going to post it. Give me a minute. There is a video that shows the FBI inside the FBI's internet tip line. And this is where you can watch that video. And I'll have these posted in the description below to you guys. But here you go. This will talk to you about that. And the tip line works because the www.fbi.gov, the FBI's interface with the internet, has on its main page a way for people to submit tips, whether they be crime tips, intelligent tips, or counterterrorism related tips. There's a form that you access. It's a very simple one. You provide whatever information you feel comfortable with, your name, your telephone number, your email address, and then it's just a free form for you to submit whatever information you feel like the FBI would need to know. It comes into the Public Access Center unit at FBI headquarters, which processes all the tips. And analysts will vet them. They'll review them for believability, credibility. They'll check internal databases and external databases to verify the information is an actual valid tip regarding criminal activity or counterterrorism. Once it is determined that there is additional investigative merit to information that's submitted, depending on whether it's a criminal tip or a counterterrorism tip or a counterintelligence tip, it will be routed differently. At each step, there is a human interface. When it goes into the pyramid system, so yes, Maria, it's the pyramid system. When it's first captured or submitted, that's automatic. But every single step and every single tip is looked at by at least 2 individuals who have independent quality assurance checks that they must do. And then once a tip is determined to have further investigative merit, then a supervisor would actually review this tip. And it would be formatted into electronic communication or entered into eGuardian for further entry into the Guardian system and follow onto the automated case support system. So there's a third level at which point it's leaving FBI headquarters to go out to the field. I think one of the most important things to know about the FBI's tip line is that every single piece of information that's submitted by an individual is reviewed by FBI personnel at the FBI headquarters. So there is nothing that goes unaddressed. We basically listen to everything that people want to submit, and we give it its due diligence. So I wanted you guys to see that and know about that because, again, we have information running amok out there that the FBI somehow misfiled this, and that's why Richard Allen was not arrested in 2017. So I think that that's really important for people to understand how this process works. And I know, like I said, that there were local people taking calls. Now, if those were calls coming into the FBI's number that was out there, then we don't know. I don't know how soon they had the FBI's tip line set up. But that would be really interesting to know. Because it sounds like this tip system that the FBI uses is pretty well vetted. I mean, they have human eyes looking at them, which I think is extremely important. So, but when you watch that video, it will definitely show you that they have to mark them for follow-up, and that they are marked once they're followed up on. So I would think that once they had prioritized tips that needed to be reviewed out in the field, that it would go from there. I mean, I'm sure the conservation officer most likely did his due diligence and turned over the tip to authorities, and said here, and and left it in their hands, and probably didn't even have any idea that that tip wasn't worked. I think it would be really interesting to know what that conservation officer feels today after knowing that he talked to him. I think it's interesting. So again, I brought it up the other day as to why he went to a conservation officer in the middle of a grocery store parking lot instead of walking across the street directly to the Carroll County Sheriff's Office and giving his information directly to them, or going to the command center and giving his information directly to them, depending on when he did this. So, I just, I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting, guys, when we find out exactly what happened and how that all went down. Because I know we don't know everything about it, but it's got to be hard for this guy that that actually took his statement or his information. Another thing that I found that I thought was interesting was one part of the PCA that that is out there that people aren't really talking about is the attention that Bridge Guy was both seen and heard by Libby's phone. And the PCA says it that way. We've always known that, as it's assumed that the scene relates to the captured image of Bridge Guy on the bridge that they put out, and that the heard was being the guys down the hill, the audio portion of the recording of the video. But what if the video recovered, because this is what the PCA's probable cause affidavit says. The video recovered from victim 2's phone shows victim 1 walking southeast on the Monon High Bridge while a male subject wearing a dark jacket and blue jeans walks behind her, seen for the first time. As the male subject approaches victims 1 and 2, one of the victims mentions gun. Near the end of the video, a male is seen and heard telling the guys down the hill. The girls, the processed down the hill, or the girls proceed down the hill, and the video ends. That's from the PCA. Now, anything is open to interpretation, you guys. People can interpret things so differently. But it seems to me that when they say Bridge Guy walks behind her, this is the first time that he's seen. Okay? And then after they say gun near the end of the video, they actually come back and say a male is seen and heard telling the girls, is this the second time he's seen? And if that's the case, and that there is near the video, a male is seen and heard telling the girls, guys down the hill, we have not seen that portion of the video. And does that mean that they have a good picture of Bridge Guy's image? Maybe not enough to identify his face, but maybe a better picture of Bridge Guy that we haven't seen yet? Maybe they actually see him holding a gun. I mean, those things are possible. So if you guys remember during episode 5 of Down the Hill, Robert Ives told us after he saw the full video, he said this: the audio is unbelievably good. Considering the circumstances, you're outdoors and people are fairly far away, though he was pretty close probably when they got that audio. Now, that word probably is important here. He's seen the video and can only assume the killer's proximity while his voice is actually being heard. And maybe he was seen and not seen and heard at the same time. But who knows, who knows? They've always said that there was a possibility that Libby's phone went into her pocket. We just don't know. I mean, I just, those are just things that come up. And maybe she took the video, and as he got closer and she realized there was a gun, she just dropped the phone right into her pocket. Who knows? I just think that there's a possibility if there's more video that we have not seen. It will be really interesting. And they may never have told us, honestly. I doubt, like I said, that there's any video of them across the creek, but I think there could very well be some more at the end of the bridge. But it's just speculation on my part, and we'll just have to wait and see, what happens. But I just thought that was something to think about. One of the other things that I found was, what if, we've all been talking about this crime scene that we know nothing about, and there's been so much speculation. And now that we know that Richard Allen, supposedly, because they've arrested him as being Bridge Guy, supposedly had a weapon that matches the same caliber as the unspent cartridge that was found between the two girls. We don't know much about the crime scene. But Robert Ives told us some things. And Robert Ives told us that the crime scene was highly unusual, something that you would want to take photographs of, and that it had looked as if it had been staged. The Ron Logan search warrant talks about the crime scene being staged. What if there was a gun, which we know now there was, the girls saw one. And who brings, there's also a knife, or there's some sort of cutting instrument, because they're looking for one in the search warrants. They're looking for knives. So if you bring a gun to scare them, to use and coerce and scare with no intent of ever firing it, how does this unspent shell get between the girls? And we've talked about all the different ways that it could. One of the ways that we have not talked about is, would he plant it there? Would he put it there on purpose to confuse law enforcement? Because a lot of people are asking, why would somebody have a gun that they never used, unspent bullet, and then actually, from everything we've been told, commit the crimes with a sharp-edged blade? What's going on here? And Robert Ives told us that that the crime scene was odd. Was this part of the oddness, that they found this unspent shell between the girls, but the bodies were killed by the girls were killed by knives, or a knife? Is there more to it than that? I mean, they didn't put everything in the PCA, and we know that. I just thought it was interesting because they've talked about the crime scene being staged, and I'm curious as to what that staging would be and what he was trying to do. Was he trying to lead them somewhere different or away from him? What was his purpose? And I just think that that's something that we should think about when we're thinking about the case. And yeah, it's just really interesting to me. I think, John, I was thinking, I saw this. I think that it's interesting because as I was going over Gray Hughes's video with you guys the other night, and I was looking at it again, I still don't feel that he left through the cemetery. I really don't. Because I think he would have been caught on Mears Farm's camera. The Mears have a camera. I also believe that he would have been caught on the Hoosier Harvest Store camera. But as I was thinking all of those things, I thought, we don't know. He still could have been. They just may not have put that evidence in the PCA. They may have Bridge Guy leaving the scene. And if not, then my feeling is that he walked very similar to what Skip said. If you guys remember way back the last time I had Skip on the show, when he talked about how he walked out through the deer trail at the north end of the bridge and walked through the woods all the way almost to the CPS building and came out right there before it. He still could have been seen by the witness on 300 North at that point, but he would have been past the Harvester store and past Mears Farm, so they wouldn't have gotten him on camera. And it's very interesting to wonder about I've watched and heard so many things from so many different new content creators that I never even knew about that cover Delphi. And I've heard a lot of people say that they really don't feel that this crime was committed by somebody who is super smart, that he just got really, really lucky. And so, yeah, it's really interesting. But I think what's going to be even more interesting is what we tend to find out at trial, because all of these things that we don't know are going to come out then, and they're going to come out in the discovery, and we'll know more then. We'll know a little bit more in February when they have the hearing for bail, because they're going to have to argue as to why he should not be allowed out. But I think that there's a lot of luck that played into this crime as far as why he got away for 6 years. Sadly, I just think there was some things that just fell his direction. And I go back to Kim Riley when he was interviewed by Michael Catt, when Michael Catt asked him about him, and Kim Riley said, "We have most likely interviewed him or someone close to him, but he has never committed a crime before that we can tell." Now, why would they be able to say that? What would they need to be able to tell that he committed a crime before, you guys? What would they need? They would need two things, or one or both. They'd need a fingerprint, or they would need DNA, because that would have him in the system. And the fact that was there crimes that have been committed that are similar to this? Certainly. Certainly. Well, you can't, Amy, I agree with you, but you can't look up a record if you don't know who the person is. Right? So, yeah. And we've got Evansdale, not that far away. I think we figured it out one day, and I can't remember. It's like a 200 and some miles, I think, 300 miles away. Hold on a second. Let's figure it out while I'm trying to. Oh, let's see. Evansdale. Whoops, Evansdale, Iowa. Let's see. Evansdale, Iowa to Delphi, Indiana. It's 401 miles from Evansdale, Indiana to Delphi, or vice versa. I wonder how much it would be if you went 5574 up, but because Evansdale is like northwest of Cedar Rapids. But hang on a second, guys. I'm just getting this to where I can show you a map. I'm trying to anyway. Just so you guys can see this, since we were talking about Evansdale, on Tuesday. So here's Evansdale and here's Delphi. So you guys can see where it is, and it is a 6-hour and 14-minute drive. It's not as close as everybody thinks it is, but it's a long way, in my opinion. And I could see it more if the person did a lot of traveling, but I don't think these two cases are connected. But I do think it's interesting that there are so many similarities in these cases. And I agree, Maria. I do. I absolutely agree with you. I think that the perpetrator in Evansdale is going to be someone similar to Richard Allen, who's local, who's familiar with the area, knew Myers Lake really, really well. Also knew the reserve where the girls were found. Absolutely. So I don't believe so, because verbal judo, I do not believe that it was at all. Oops, sorry. Because it was the girls' bodies were found almost 6 months after the abduction. So they've never talked about it. We don't know for sure. But I just think that their bodies were just laid out in the open. So that's basically that. But that's what I wanted to go over with you guys tonight. Just some things that I was thinking about, a couple things that I found over on Reddit, that got me to thinking, we should talk about this because I think it's interesting. And I definitely think it's interesting about witnesses. And I don't know. I just think it's very interesting. Because we've got so many more witnesses than we ever thought we would have, in my opinion. And the fact that one of them was 50 feet away from him on the bridge. So, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, it's like 4.5 hours away, Maria. Yeah, it's like 4.5 hours away from Evansdale. Just because he worked at Walmart does not make him connected to Evansdale at all. But there's been a lot of, talk about the dates of the two cases. I think that's probably the most cringeworthy thing about it, about the two cases that gets me, is how the dates are backwards for each other. But hey, Hoosier, how are you? So yeah, I mean, we just need to continue to hold the families close and continue to push forward. And as my good dear friend GonZo would say if he was here, keep everything tight and wait until we see what comes of the trial. A lot of the questions that we have that we don't know are going to be answered. I know that there's a lot of new cases out there and that people are starting to cover more stuff. Delphi is going to get really quiet. There's going to be a lot less that we have to talk about. And I'm going to start covering other things. So I know that I have a really good foothold and following of Delphi people who love following the Delphi case, but I hope I can get you interested in some of the other cases that are happening or that have happened so that we can at least have productive conversations about other crimes while we wait for Richard Allen's trial to come. I don't want to, so I just want to be careful about doing too many crazy speculations about things because, again, we are waiting for this trial, and I don't want to be feeding into any way of tainting a jury by putting reasonable doubt out there. And we have so many other cases that need to be talked about. And I think this is just a good time to start doing that. And I hope everybody will stick with me while we do that. And, you know, if you guys have cases that you think are seriously important to you for whatever reason, email them to me. Let me know what they are. I'll take a look at them. And I am too, Lisa. I am so happy that Joseph finally has a name. And now the task at hand is finding justice for him and who killed him. He was beaten so badly. And, you know, it breaks my heart. A 4-year-old little boy that didn't even have a chance. So thanks, Island. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's what I'm going to definitely do. I've been, you know, we're coming to the new year. I will soon have had my channel a year. And I think it's time for me to move out of that Delphi arena, so to speak. It's hard because, trust me, Delphi is it's so close to my heart. And I really hate not talking about it as much, but it's for a good reason. Oh, tattooed girl, I love you. That is awesome. She says that we're stuck with us now, Kristen. Go ahead and cover all the cases. You won't get rid of us that easy. Good. I'm glad. I just wanted to give you guys a heads up of what what my mindset is for going into the new year and stuff. I know that we're coming into Christmas and holiday time and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and some of the other holidays that happen around this time of year. And people are going to be with their families and spending time with friends. And so, you know, my schedule over Christmas is not going to be the same as it is any of the other time because I spend a lot of time with my family at that time of the year. So, but I love you guys. I mean, 9 months I've been doing this and I feel amazed at the fact that you guys stuck with me and have grown with me. I've watched my channel grow and, you know, I'm at 2,250 subscribers. And if you'd asked me 9 months ago, if I would have had 2,250 people following me, I would have never, ever in my wildest dreams thought that. And yes, Metal Mama, you are so right. There are many cases that need to be addressed. I believe both Abby and Libby would want you to help others the way you have helped keep their case alive. Thank you. That touches my heart. That touches my heart. I know that the I know that Kelsey knows why I cover her sister's case. I also know that Becky knows why I cover their cases and that I've tried to do nothing but help. So I feel good about that. And I don't feel like I'm giving up on them in any way, shape, or form. I just want to start covering other other cases. So, oh, very cool, Lisa. There's definitely some here. My daughter and I are going to cover a case here in from where we are from as well. And she's still missing, and I want to help her mom and her family figure out what happened to her. Oh, CNR, you are so nice. I love all of you guys very much. You've become a family to me. This is like my community, and I just love it. I mean, Maria will tell you, we she and I bonded right away, right after I started my channel. She was instrumental in helping me get my channel up and off the ground, literally. The first time I went live was a nightmare, but Maria was there to help me. I thought I had completely lost my channel, all the videos that I had done, because I did a lot of videos before I started going live. And man, it was a night to remember. But Tech Death, and he's been here from the beginning. Maria's been here from the beginning. Grismatically Clever has been here from the beginning with me. And I can't say enough about them all. They, everybody, all my moderators that helped me get where I'm at. Jennifer Rochelle did so much helping me with Nightbot and getting that set up for me, which has really helped the channel grow. And so I really appreciate all of the work that she put into that. I will say this. I do have a Facebook group. I'm going to start opening that up to everyone. I had it set for members only, but the group is just not moving. I don't have a lot of time to put into Facebook because of all the other stuff and the research that I do. And because of that, oh God, I know, Maria, I still laugh about it as well. But yeah, I'm going to open it up so that you guys can converse there, and we can post things about other crimes as well. And that's one of the things that I've been doing with my community page, you guys. So if you like and subscribe to me, hopefully YouTube is sending you notifications if you click on the bell every time I post on my community page or post a new video or a live, so you guys can see. But I try to update you with ongoing case information of other cases that we've talked about, or even possibly new ones. And I like to do that there. I do have a private Discord group, and that's for my members only, and that's going to stay that way. So if you do become a member of my channel, you can become a member of my Discord. So, oh, Verbal Judo, thank you. I spend a lot of time with my Twitter. I have some really close friends on Twitter, and that I've made through the true crime community. So I definitely have a presence on Twitter. But yeah, so that's really what my goals are. I kind of let you guys know because I feel I should, since you guys are my community. And with that, I'm going to let you go. I will see you guys all on Saturday. I do want to give everyone a heads up that's watching. If you plan on coming here on Saturday, you do need to be subscribed to my channel, because I'm going to make it for subscribers only. I have a feeling that it's going to get kind of maybe a little heated in chat. I want to warn everyone ahead of time that my rules still apply, even though we're going to be talking about a very volatile case. People have deep emotions about this case, and I understand that. And you're entitled to your opinions. They don't have to be the same as mine. I just want to make sure that you all are respectful of each other, respectful of my moderators especially, and also myself. So if you can't do that, please don't come. Verbal Judo, I always go live 8 Central Standard Time, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. And my days are Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday currently. So we'll go from there. But thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for supporting me. I thank everyone who continues to support me through PayPal. I love that you guys are sending me donations there. It's nice that I get those. They're always a huge surprise. And yes, 7 Northern California time. Yes. 6, 7 or 6. I can't remember. I can't remember how far apart we are because I thought it was 7 Mountain and I think you're 6. If you're Pacific Standard Time, it would be 6. But I'm always at the same time, you guys. I'm always at 8 Central Standard Time. But yeah, and for everyone who always buys me a tea at Buy Me a Coffee, thank you very much for that as well. Those come in awfully handy, and I appreciate it so very much. But everyone, have a good evening, and I'll see you guys all on Saturday. Good night, everyone.